Mike Bledsoe here, CEO of the Shrugged Collective. Today, we bring to you a new show, Feed Me, Fuel Me, hosted by Jeff Thornton and Michael Anders. As we're expanding what we offer, traveling to great guests, and introducing you to the best content, we have partnered with amazing companies that we believe in. We talk and hang out with the founders and owners of these businesses. Not all products are created equal, even if it looks like it on the surface. We've done the research and have been in the industry long enough to see what really works and what will make the biggest difference for you long term. With that being said, one of my favorite companies, Thrive Market, has a special offer for you. You get $60 of free organic groceries plus free shipping and a 30-day trial. ThriveMarket.com/feedme. This is how it works. Users will get $20 off their first 3 orders of $49 or more plus free shipping. No code is necessary because the discount will be applied at checkout. Many of you will be going to the store this week anyway, so hit up Thrive Market today. Go to thrivemarket.com/feedme. Enjoy the show.
This is episode number 85 of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast with our special guest, author of Making Healthy Taste Good, Jason Sani. Welcome to the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. My name is Jeff Thornton, alongside my co-host, Michael Anders. Each week, we bring you an inspiring person or message related to our 3 pillars of success: manifestation, business, fitness, and nutrition. Our intent is to enrich, educate, and empower our audience to take action, control, and accountability for their decisions. Thank you for allowing us to join you on your journey. Now let's get started.
Hey, what's good, fam? Welcome to episode 85 of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. Durs and Jeff coming at you with our original co-host, Jason Sani, who is now the author of Making Healthy Taste Good. Book just launched. It's on Amazon and here, there, and everywhere. Number one, congratulations on all your growth.
Yeah, bro.
Thank you.
Since we parted ways on the show, Jeff and I definitely wouldn't have made it this far without you helping us get this thing rolling.
Oh, man, it feels so good to be back. And it's a reminder of like what happens when I think, whether we call ourselves great minds come together. It's so much more powerful than an idea, I think, to get the whole ball rolling. So like, I take so much pride in getting to be a part of something like this. And especially seeing you guys grow and take it to 85 episodes, which is incredible. And with that, and the quality of guests that you have now, it's like coming back and get to be a guest. Like I take a lot of pride in that.
Nah, man,
You're crushing
it's
it.
good
company.
It's good to have you back, dude. But I'm sitting here holding your baby,
Yes.
your book,
Kiss the baby.
your brainchild.
Yep.
This is the manifestation of your greatness, my friend, and this is huge. Having gone through the book writing process, I have an idea of what you put into this. Mm-hmm. And how's it been since you launched?
It's been one of the most exhilarating types of feelings ever. I think it's wild the type of stressors that we can create for ourselves when we have a big project, and it's so much like I admire people that can go on and be happy and like on all the time and still accomplish things that have so much more meaning and fulfillment. So it's exhilarating in the sense that I'm not carrying around that weight of this expectation of getting this book out. I had for so long said it's almost there. And it's like, how do you define almost? For me, it was like a word that I used for accountability to like let people know I'm making progress. Mm-hmm. But it feels incredible to have it in people's hands. It makes all of that time and effort feel worth it. Mm-hmm. Although like I was extremely stubborn and I probably should have asked for help, and there's so many things I learned throughout the process, but no, it feels really good.
That's dope. It's what's so cool to see is I remember us all having the conversation 2 years ago or somewhere around that time when you were starting to make the book and actually see it and feel it in our hands, dude. That's a major accomplishment, dude. Congrats on that, bro.
And that's one of the biggest things too, is to see an idea that was a concept like come to fruition and be now a physical object that represents like so much. Mm-hmm. For me, it's like, we all talk about that legacy thing. I think it's like no matter what happens, at least I get to put out a big part of like my thought process, and that I truly think is unique and explains so many different pictures of this art that is so meaningful to me. Like now it's out, it's here, it's something that even if I'm not around, It represents and tells, it tells its own story. And, 2 years ago was when I started this process. I remember a couple years before I'd started a process of, of a book. And it's just like, and I realize now having conversations, there's so many people that start that process. Some finish, some don't, Durs over here, like, what it's like, the price you have to pay to put everything else on hold to really get it done. Like, it goes so far beyond like a 95 or an hour here and there.
Oh, totally. And it's not like you just dropped everything and said, you know what, I'm just going to be an author. You know what I mean? You had a lot of other things going on with your nutrition consulting and personal training and whatnot. So, you have to, you start these things kind of on the side, and they kind of grow way past that. And it's one of those things where it's, okay, if you want to look at it from a 9 to 5 perspective, you have 16 hours on the back end of that to work on your book. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. When I was writing the Manifestation of Affirmation, I spent a lot of time on planes, where I had a concentrated 6 hours of nothing to do and just poured words down on paper. Or, I was up at, between midnight and 3 a.m. getting ideas down. And I'm sure you had a lot of the same,
Absolutely. And that brings me to like the energy management, which I talk a little bit about in the book, and I talk about it with all my clients. But there's time management and there's energy management. And, it's like, okay, like I'm working on a little project, or I'm going to start a business, so I'm going to do it when I'm done with work at 5, but sometimes work goes till 6. And I happen to just overdo it, like talking with people and putting energy out. So now it's like I'm drained at the end of the day. So that 2 hours that I was going to save to work on my little baby or project isn't all that effective.
Right.
So you have to learn to things like, okay, what can I trade off when I have optimal energy to be more productive or effective? And this goes with anything that's meaningful in life. It's like you need to prioritize that. So there'd be times, instead of like working with a client or doing another project, when I knew my energy was going to be good, I had to dedicate it to the book. Or, it's like, and so it's like there's always an opportunity cost or something that you're trading in, or a consequence or a cost of something to be able to do that. But I also realized that like 1 to 2 really good energetic hours like earlier in the day was so much more effective than sometimes 4 hours later in the nighttime, where I was just kind of staring at a computer, and it was just like, and you know how that is, probably just like you're so determined to get some words or ideas out, but you've used
like a blank slate.
Your good stuff.
I'll tell you what, man, and I'd love for you to elaborate on that blank tape, those blank tape moments where you build it into your schedule. It's on your calendar, whatever. I'm going to write for I'm not doing anything for 4 hours. I'm going to dedicate this 4 hours to my book. That time comes, and whether your energy's right or not, you've got nothing.
Yep. I can't tell you how many times, and how do you explain that? Like, at the time, like, when I was, I had a girlfriend, and, she'd ask me what I wanted to do. And I'm constantly in the mindset of feeling like I need to be productive. And it was like, if I had to tell you what I did, I wrote 2 pages in the last 4 hours and rearranged some words and thought about some ideas. And it's like, there was so many days that were like that. But it's like, that's part of the process. Obviously, I think if you have somebody that's helping you, that's so many people use like ghostwriters and so on and things like that. And there's a lot of things I learned from this process that I go back and do. But it's funny how much kind of like stalled, or I don't know if you call it dead time there is. But it's part of the process, I think. And like, where can you go to tap in inspiration? I became obsessed with like, how do I get on? Like, I think I need to light this incense. I need to meditate first. I'm going to take a cold shower so I'm more alert. Then I'm going to have a cup of coffee with some mushrooms in it. And then I'm going to arrange my desk so it's like perfect so I'm not distracted.
Right.
And that process would take a half hour, 45 minutes. And it's like, okay, now I got an hour and 15 minutes to do what I wanted to do. And it's
or you have like these lightning strikes of creative genius.
Oh yeah.
And at the worst moments ever. Yeah. Like, you'll be driving, and you've got like 30 seconds at a red light, and you're like, ding! And it's like, I can't, put all this stuff in the notes on my phone fast enough. And then you cross the street and you've lost it.
Yeah.
It's like
and that's fire, man, because whether you know, it's the same thing. If you're stuck on an idea, it's like sometimes we need to slow ourselves down or distract ourselves. If we're overthinking about something, we're trying too hard, like we're creating this stressor, and your brain's not going to be optimized, or your creativity's not going to be optimized. So for me, it was like finding those outlets. Sometimes it's getting out and going for a run. It is, you know, going for a drive, listening to music, unplugging was when the information would pour in, and I'd get past that little bit of plateau, because it's like sometimes like art can't be forced, or if you're trying to be creative and explain something, like it'd be funny. The book was created because I had worked with so many people hands-on and done workshops and worked with clients. So a lot of times some of the best ideas would be come in when I would be working with somebody, and I would be like, wait, this perspective is why this person understands that. And so I'd go back in with the book and try to explain something, like when I talk about like flavor insurance. It's like taking the little things that you crave. That's why you make the choice of what you're going to eat. So it's like, okay, I'd have to take a note of that and say, what are some examples? Well, this person, you know, they like chocolate, so we're going to use the little chocolate chips to get them to eat more food or volume or whatever the case is. But it's like you have to take like little notes like that, and some of that comes in the midst of like doing something.
Sure.
That's interesting, dude. How'd you come up with all like the recipes that you do? Or are you just figuring out as you go, failure, and just
I'm just obsessed with, I feel so thankful. It's funny because I'll work with somebody, and it's like a show like Chopped. Like I find inspiration all over the place. But let's say you go out to a restaurant and you see something on the menu. Like my mind thinks like, how can I recreate that? And I like give credit for like, that's cool that they combine those types of flavors, and that there doesn't need to be like rules of what works together with what. So for instance, me trying to be really low carb, if I was trying to look good for like modeling or a photo shoot or something like that, I would be avoiding sugars and carbohydrates, but I still wanted to eat like pancakes, waffles, and ice cream. So it's like, okay, how can I make these recipes using like protein powder as a base or coconut flour? Or then I, you know, gotten the whole gluten-free kick. So it was like, okay, making pizza and pasta dishes and things like that without gluten. So for me, it was constantly, and then sometimes it was clients. If I worked with a client that had a food intolerance, it was like, I can't eat this way, or I'm picky. Well, here's a new way to look at this food and transform it into something that's more desirable. So I was a very particular kid growing up, and like I didn't want to eat vegetables, but my mom like allowed me to make like a sauce. So it's like the sauce necessarily wasn't healthy, but it was the tool that I used to eat more of what I needed to eat. And that plays into like, it's same thing. It's just, it's kind of cheating the system to keep it fresh all the time. So like that's why I have a lot of fun with it. Like for me, my biggest stress relief, my meditation a lot of times is in the kitchen when I take some ingredients that I happen to have in the fridge and do kind of improvisational type of meal, and I use a little bit of seasoning here, a little bit of a sauce here. And to me, I get lost in that moment. I'm not thinking about anything else. So for me, it was just like freestyling a lot and having fun and looking, you know, where there was inspiration. I took a lot of pride in like if somebody said they didn't like something or liked something, like making a new version for them.
What, like, how are some staples, or what are some staples that you have in the cabinet? Because sometimes when you walk into a grocery store, you have this big list before you go. Then you get there and you're like, okay, salt, pepper, lemon pepper, I'm done, and just like you just bounce. And you leave, and you're just like, there's so much more I could have gotten, but I don't know what to get.
You're such a bodybuilder, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
Salt, pepper, and lemon pepper.
That's like the best.
That's the quintessential.
You know, what are staples to spicing up that? Because I always find myself like lost in the mist every time I just walk in the grocery store. Like, what's something new I should try? But I just always go back to the same things.
So we got to, and this is fun. So let's just say something really cliche, like you eat chicken and broccoli and a sweet potato, for instance. That can be made into like 10 different combinations of things by having a couple different flavors in hand. So I talk about flavor insurance, and what I mean by that are, let's just say like, 5 to 10 go-to tools that you use to make these foods more enjoyable. For instance, you don't need 5 spices to make a recipe when I can use a Mexican seasoning blend that has like paprika and garlic and onion and chili powder, for instance. Or if I want like an Asian fusion type of meal, I don't need to have like 5 different seasonings. I'll use coconut aminos and because that's going to give me kind of like a little Thai fusion style type of thing. So for me, it's having a couple sauces that I go to, or I'll take a hot sauce and I upgrade it by like taking a funnel and adding in like apple cider vinegar or some turmeric or pumpkin pie spice. But I like to have like go-to seasoning blends, nutritional yeast, which has like a savory, cheesy type of taste. But that in combination with like the coconut aminos or an acid like lemon or apple cider vinegar or onion brings out a very savory taste. And, obviously like a good like pink sea salt. But for me, it's like it's transforming, making a sauce out of like I can throw carrots and blend them up with almonds and like a soy sauce type of thing and make my own like type of peanut sauce.
Yeah.
Definitely lemon and lime. Citrus sauce can revamp a lot of flavors. I cook with tea a lot to be able to cut back on the caloric load from oil. So if I'm steam frying food, rather than throwing a bunch of oil down, which gets absorbed into what I'm eating, I'm going to start out with like a turmeric or ginger tea or a rooibos tea as a base to be able to help create steam to break the foods down. And then at the end, I'll add in seasonings and flavors or so on. So it's like having a couple liquid flavor type of bases and playing around with it. But like I love coconut aminos for that instant savory type of kick and making a lot of sauces. So in the book, I have like, just like you would make a smoothie, I have little sauces that you can make, like instant type of sauces that you can just throw on something. And to me, it's worth it. You got to say, okay, well, it's going to take 5 minutes and you got to clean up a little mini blender. But to me, it's worth it to love a food.
Right.
And I get a lot of people say, no, it's all right. I like food. I can eat vegetables. Well, yeah, you're tolerating them. If you can love vegetables, you're unlocking a key to like so much more health, whether you're eating low carb or you're just trying to prevent disease or so on.
That's dope, because I've actually made one of your recipes. It was it the cocoa nibs, or what's it the
little energy bite type of things that I make, like the thin mint type of things?
The thin mints,
yeah.
Those are incredible, man.
Yeah.
And like I just dropped into a Sprouts and got all the ingredients and stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you, man, you could eat a whole tray of those things and you're almost full, but you don't feel as heavy like when you eat like a Girl Scout type of mint, like the thin mint type of stuff. That stuff was incredible.
And so that's a big inspiration behind a lot of recipes is eating food that makes you feel good. Like truly, like not just instant gratification, but like we all know we go out to eat our favorite restaurant and the next day we feel like we kind of have a food baby. Like I think and that drains our energy.
Yeah. And
so it's like we need to be able to eat recipes that make us feel good. And so like everything in the book doesn't take a lot of time. You can make it in less than 20 minutes and you like feel good after eating it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest keys is like we need to feel good if we're going to be inspired to keep doing the process. So it's
well, I'll tell you, man, here's what I like about the book is above and beyond the recipes. I mean, you can find recipes anywhere, right? But you go above and beyond and you touch on condiments and sauces. Because I'll tell you, man, when I go out to eat, even when I try to do it well, I go with the lean filet and the baked potato without all the extra, the sauce they put on that shit or the butter that they cook the steak with tears my stomach apart.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like when my wife does filet on the grill, she doesn't use any of that stuff. So it's like, it's all good, whatever. But that heavy sauce I've learned when I go out to eat is what really tears me up.
Yep.
Right? So the fact that you've gone above and beyond and you actually have how to recreate that same taste and flavor profile where that wouldn't happen.
Yep.
Like that's so bonus, right? Because now it's not just, a hot piece of meat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I still enjoy.
He's like, I know I get called a hot piece of meat.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That killed me,
you know what I'm saying? But like now, you increased the flavor profile of the stuff that, especially coming from bodybuilding where it's just like steam it and eat it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Now you've given people the opportunity to go above and beyond just the nuts and bolts of nutrition. And making it taste better. Did I just kill you, though?
That killed me. That hot piece of meat killed me, bro.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the real talk,
though. When I body built, once I got an understanding of the basic principles of nutrition, like that's how I did it. You know what I mean? I've never weighed an ounce of food or any of that stuff. It was just, lean white chicken, white fish, salmon once a week, red meat once a week, and then as colorful as I could make it with vegetables and brown rice, the whole nine, right? But it was like super basic.
Yep.
Like I would never cook that for my girlfriend if I was you know what I mean? If I was trying to show off my culinary skills, I would fail epically. You know what I'm saying? So but like to take those fundamental principles that will not only help you feel better, increase performance, increase your aesthetic, but it tastes good.
That's baller,
bro. You knocked it out of the park.
Well, and And that's so major. Like, I want food that can be a conversation piece at the same time. Like, especially, like, let's say you're single guy or girl, like, that can be part of your date, or what you're doing for fun is recreating a dish that you see somewhere and let it be a conversation piece. And I get it. I went through the whole clean eating type of thing, and it's like, at the same time, it's like you can't have a conversation about just getting in your macros and eating chicken breasts and some veggies, especially if they're bland, because it's going to be like,
right,
all right, that's it. You got your food in or whatever. But it's like, this can be a conversation if you make your, like a homemade sauce that amplifies the flavor. And yeah, you got your macros, and then the sauce is an opportunity to get more of your micronutrients in.
Right.
And imagine like your favorite sauce, like literally right now, whether, think about this, whether it's ranch or a cheese sauce or like a pasta sauce or like hummus or whatever. Imagine this, whatever your favorite sauce is that you could just sriracha or whatever, you could put all over food. What if I told you could have a sauce like that the more you ate of it, the healthier you would be? And like in there, I truly have sauces like that. For instance, I do, like a Thai fusion sauce where like I put in some baby carrots. You're going to get some fiber and like beta carotene. And that ends up being kind of the water base of the sauce, because vegetables are made from water. And then I'll throw in some cashews to thicken it up, and that fat emulsifies and brings it together. And then I could throw in something like roasted red peppers or, garlic, or bring in some like citrus. Same thing, I have a barbecue sauce that you can sneak vegetables in. It's like super satisfying, but it gives you an opportunity to sneak in veggies and micronutrients, which those micronutrients also have different enzymes which are going to help you break down and absorb that meal that much better. And so it's like, that makes it fun that you can make this sauce, which can be almost the main entree. Like, use that, let sauce be your hero. I have that written in the book. And I have a ranch in there. I have a ranch that you can eat a bunch of, because instead of using like buttermilk and these ingredients that don't really have any benefit, you can either use hemp hearts or do one with cashew. And the rest of the ingredients are similar. You're using garlic, you're using dill, you're using a citrus. But it gives you an opportunity to sneak in some extra things that have benefits. And then it's like, makes food prep really easy. Make a bunch of food and then have a couple different sauces that you can throw on things, and your meals are so much more satisfying. And that's what I'm big about, is like, don't eat bland food. Like, and that's why I always ask people, like, do you love what you're eating? And I don't say, do you like what you're eating? I say, do you love it? Because if you don't love it, it's one of life's greatest pleasures and joys. Like, you're going to get bored with it. It's more likely that you're going to give in because you're not going to have satisfaction.
Right.
So.
And, that's an awesome point, because, when you talk about competition prep from a bodybuilding standpoint, I always describe it as something that's unsustainable. Whether you do multiple shows a year or you just do one a year, you know what I mean? In the context of your life, it's a very short window. But if I had something like this back when I was competing, that would have made the process so much more enjoyable versus, because my routine used to be, I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. My first client would be at 5. I'd wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, have some chicken thawed out, throw it in the pan. I'd boil some spinach in bulk, and I'd take all 6 things of Tupperware with me, and that's all I would eat all day long. I'd make a big batch of one thing, and I would chop it up into 6 pieces, and that's how I'd have every 2 hours. For 14 weeks.
And I think that people
that's something that 99% of people, even in the bodybuilding community, wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
it's like, and here's an example. Like, if you want to do something that is low carb or low sugar, like there's tons of options for that. Like, go-to flavors, like you can always put citrus, like lemon or lime. So I get a bottle of organic like lemon or lime juice, and like that can be a way to like revive some leftovers, or just splash it on. There's not going to be any extra calories in there. Use a vinegar-based type of dressing, or make a little fat go a long way. Like, blending up some avocado or olive oil or mashing it up is going to create more volume for something like that you can use that as a tool to eat more vegetables. And that's the thing. We all know we need to eat more vegetables or more nutritious foods. But the how, and like, so what I do is I'm bridging like good intentions with like the action of actually doing it by taking some flavors that you can do to be able to make that stuff more desirable. Yeah. For instance, like, the whole cauliflower rice is, it's an example of like, you could eat a plate full of that and you've only eaten like 100 calories, yet that's going to keep you full, satisfied, provide you with a bunch of nutrients. Well, you can use that same method to eat a sweet potato that's sweet potato rice, or parsnip rice. Or broccoli rice or carrot rice. It takes a couple minutes, but it's going to transform and mix it up and treat it just like stir-fried rice type of thing.
That's
You
dope.
can make it in a couple minutes with a simple tool. And then it's like you're eating something different all the time. And again, it's like, it makes it fun.
That's dope, man. I like
It needs to be having fun.
like going on like what you're talking about. There's like even like you were talking about meal prep a little bit earlier, and I think that's why I'm not against meal prep companies, but I think I have a hard time transitioning into buying food from meal prep companies because it makes me feel sick. Like when I had to look at my boiled chicken and broccoli and rice or whatever sitting in those black trays.
Oh, sure.
And it's so just like the appeal factor is the bigger turnoff for me than actually what's in the food.
Yep.
You know, because it looks the same as what I was eating when I was doing bodybuilding.
Right.
So it takes me back to that past. But with what you're talking about, like you said, if I would have had that would have transformed, you know, how I would have done things or even how I'm doing things now. So I could look at like meal prep throughout the week and say, hell, let me make a sauce. Let me follow what Sani has in here in the recipe book and then make my meals look more appetizing and not just so plain and simple.
So the thing I take a lot of pride in really quick is you give me any, let's say you are a macronutrients or a food you need to eat. And like what I take pride in is being able to make that more palatable and desirable for you. So it's like people are like, I don't like sweet potatoes because they're so boring and they're baked. Well, it's like
they're delicious.
Chop it up, put it in a toaster oven and have sweet potato toast. Turn it into sweet potato rice.
Right.
You could do a microwaved version and then chop it up and stir fry it with some sauce. You know, if you want a quick version, you can bake it, you can boil it, you can slice it, you can spiralize it and eat it into fries.
Right.
You can steam it and then throw it into a pancake or a waffle. So that's 10 different ways to eat sweet potato, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like when I get people that say I don't like these foods, I'm like, well, I didn't used to either. I think it's just being open-minded that new needs to be the new normal, that like a food that you don't think you like could be your favorite food if you just try, if you're open-minded to deliver things.
The delivery system.
And if you're eating your favorite
Presentation is everything.
Yeah, and if you're eating your favorite thing every day, you're going to be a happier person.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you know the what I love about you, bro, is you've mastered the chemistry of food. And then made it palatable for idiots like me. You know, this is like, I understand eating healthy. Like I get that part, but the process of making it enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't describe the nutrition part of my contest prep when I was bodybuilding as enjoyable. It was a means to an end. Like the goal was bigger than the task, so I was able to do it. But on the day to day, when I'm not, you know, preparing for a show, it's like, this is, I don't enjoy this, you know, but based on everything I've seen in this book, man, you make the process enjoyable. And like, for me, that speaks, I resonate with that so much because I spend so much time helping people fall in love with the process of training. Yeah. You now have a medium that allows people to fall in love with the process of nutrition.
And let me give an example there, like, you know, because that just made me think, like, if you were prepping for something, and I can speak for myself or clients. I just had a client that, you know, I've been working with him for like 8 months. He's lost 40 pounds. And I have him, he eats waffles, and we make like a healthy version of like a chicken nuggets, and he does ice cream on a regular basis. But it's just using better versions of all those. For instance, a waffle, and I use these all the time just out of convenience and laziness. A waffle is the same thing as me eating a half cup of oatmeal, frying up 2 eggs next to it, and then having like a protein shake. But the difference is I put the oatmeal with eggs and a little bit of the protein powder, and I blend it up, and that's what gives me like a pancake or a waffle. You get what I'm saying? So like, I'm just trying to get you to take those ingredients and have some more fun with them. Right. And I get it. If you don't like waffles, you can have it the way that you're having it before. But for me, I look forward, and it doesn't always have to. Sometimes it's chocolate, sometimes it's blueberries, sometimes it's like a peanut butter flavor, a carrot cake type of thing. But like, it's fun for me, and I think that that's what I want. You can have fun and still be, like, you can prep up. I can lose body fat and gain muscle and still eat what I love.
Yeah,
that's dope. And dude, we talked about it a little bit offline, because what makes it really stick home for me is that you're actually a practitioner and you use what you're saying and you've actually done it. Tell us about the time you were gone from your home for 2 months and you actually applied everything you're telling us right now from your book and used it when you were in California.
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges, I had the opportunity to be on a reality type of show that was on Facebook Watch. It was kind of like a dating type of thing where I was gone for 2 months. And it was funny, one of the first challenges for me was like, I wouldn't say I'm uptight, but I was like, I'm going to be put in a challenge to like kind of being out of my controlled scenario when it comes to food. And I had to just realize that I had to make the best of what I could and be resourceful. And so that's what I teach a little bit in the book, is about just being resourceful with what you have. And I knew that I could control the first meal of what I was eating and the last. But in the middle of the day, it was like dates and eating out. Like, I had corn dogs and hot dogs and pasta and pizza.
Nothing wrong with that.
And all kinds of food trucks and things like that. That like, it's great. It's nostalgic. It takes me back. Like, I grew up on Hot Pockets, mayonnaise sandwiches, macaroni and cheese with hot dogs. So it's like,
yeah, buddy.
This was my type of soul food, but it would make you feel some type of way. Yeah. So one thing I could take from is like when you're eating out, you're not forced to finish everything and overindulge everything, but like give yourself the pleasures in life. But I learned that prepping things, I would just make snacks and things like that available on a regular basis. So I mean, I got myself out of my comfort zone. You know, in the morning I would have a meal that I know that I could go to and kind of recreate. So like, I cycled probably 3 different like first meals of the day, and I would have those, you know, processed. A lot of times it would be like a shake, and I might crack an egg in it and then pour it over a bowl of oatmeal and stir it up with some blueberries. So it was like flavored oatmeal with blueberries and texture. Yeah. And I would eat that after I did something active in the morning. And I knew at nighttime I could have stuff prepped up. And if I had like a sauce or a seasoning, that would be kind of my cleanup meal to like pick up the leftover like calories or whatever macros that I wanted to hit, you know, throughout the day. But again, I had fun with it. I had a waffle maker and I had a blender. And those were 2 little tools that like cleaned up really easy that I was able to prep stuff up and be creative with it. And it made it fun. I don't know, food, although it can be abused, can be a little bit of a stress release at the same time. There, man. It's always there for you.
How much time do you spend in the kitchen, like in your normal day to day?
Since
I know it's like part of your life, but
so it's something that like I feel like I get to do rather than the obligation mindset where some people look at it. But I mean, I'd say I'm making something or cooking in the kitchen. I'd average it out around an hour or a little bit less. And some days I always have something in the fridge. So I tell people, and here's something that will help you guys, is your fridge should look like a mini salad bar. Not a big salad bar, but like if you went to a salad bar that had mix and match items, what are like 4 ingredients that you would want to have? Like some chopped up arugula or leafy greens, maybe some, roasted veggies and a protein and like a flavor or a sauce or avocado or something. Like, so I know I always have that. So on days where I'm busy, like I legitimately, there's days where I might work with a client at 7 a.m. and my last client at like 7:30 p.m. and I'll have little bits and pieces in the middle of the day. But like when I come home, I just need to be able to throw something together. The difference is I can get home with a long day and food can energize me because I'm looking forward to the process. I'm tasting it as I'm going. And like literally like it might be 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock when I'm getting home to make a meal. And I'm all right with putting in 20, 30 minutes of making a meal that I'm going to look forward to because I know how it's going to make me feel. It's an investment that I'm making and I'm enjoying it too. So it's a win-win situation that it's like giving myself a dessert that I'm going to feel good the next day. Take pride in it.
When did you make the conversion to looking at food and nutrition as an investment, looking at that process as an investment? Because, if you guys are late to the show and you haven't listened to Jason on our earliest episodes, you spent a little time, out in college, walked on at Oregon, trying to make that happen. And we've all played college ball and we definitely didn't look at nutrition then the way that we look at it now. Like, at what point did you get to this headspace about food?
It started, I would say, I was introduced, it started a little bit in high school being undersized, and I met with a family doctor that basically said that, food isn't necessarily stunning your growth. Don't look at it that way. Just look at, like, there's things that you need to eat as, like, puzzle pieces to put together. And he had brought up amino acids. So I think I mentioned, early on as a kid, like, what are amino acids? You know what I mean? I found out they were in protein. I didn't have a lot of options, but I was like, I'm still going to eat the food that I love, but I'm going to like make it a priority. I realized when I was eating enough of the right foods, my body started to grow and I started to feel better and I got to see myself actually like grow and develop. But then it took like probably in like my mid-20s when I was going out and still like drinking a little bit and partying. I had been doing like some of the corporate stuff. I realized that like sometimes I would eat meals and I'd wake up and I'd feel like bloated or my energy would be low and I didn't sleep as good as I wanted. And I started to associate that with like eating out places and I didn't know what was in that type of food. And then I could kind of say, well, I don't know if if I go to some like late night like burrito stand, you know, it's no, you know, I'm starting to like figure out like when I eat these foods, this is how I feel. And I started really like just creating a story. Like if I ate more dairy or cheese or processed foods, my brain literally worked like slower. And so I went on a challenge to try to eliminate dairy and processed foods. And it gave me this clarity. And I had to do it for a little period of time. And it was a challenge. But it was the difference of like there, you know, so I mean, this process happened probably like 10 years ago, maybe like more like 9 years ago or so, where I realized that how good I could feel exposed to me, like, okay, when I was eating these foods. And so it was like that potential of that. So I hope that makes sense. It's like sometimes you don't know how good you can feel until you've done it for a little while. And then I would reintroduce crappy foods, like if I was out of town or something like that, and I'd get that same type of feel, that bloated feel. My brain would work a little bit slower and so on. And I realized that was control I have. And like I can say with confidence, I feel now I'm 32 and I truly feel better now than when I was 22 because I know I can associate with what makes me feel what and so on. And like training wise, like all the work that you put in the gym, like inflammation wise, all those different types of things. I don't care what people say. Like when I was eating more fast food, I just feel more aches and pains in my body when I was eating like convenient stuff compared to like putting quality in. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
the truth, because we've all had significant injuries. You tore your pec.
Yep.
I blew out my knee. Derek blew out his knee. And eating, like you said, those foods that make you inflame, like get you inflammation, because my knee swells up very bad when I eat out. And we said when you're eating the good stuff, the inflammation's not there in the morning anymore. It feels a lot better.
Yep.
That's crazy, man, how that works out. But what do you think about when people say, like a Whole Foods or a Sprouts, like it's too expensive to buy that type of food compared to like buying the, you know, government cheese or whatever? It's like least expensive food. How do you get people to shift that mindset in a way? Because that's the fight. That's the pushback always.
There's two things. I think number one, your health needs to be a bigger priority in the sense of like look at it as like self-insurance or health insurance or whatever the case is. So I think number one, like you need to lead with that, saying what you put in your body is going to prevent like long-term health bills or so on. But then number two, reality, like it doesn't need to be that much more expensive. I mean, you can buy eggs, you can buy, you know, leafy greens, go to like the farmer's market and buy vegetables in bulk. And vegetables are easy foods to like fill up and keep you satisfied. You don't need to buy all these fancy types of things. Like you can buy sauces and seasoning blends and cauliflower pizza crust as training wheels to get you going there, but you don't need all that fancy stuff. So I think part of it is like go compare apples to apples, and like you can realize like with food prep, get yourself a slow cooker for like $12 and prep up, you know, like taco chicken or beef or whatever the case is. And like you can realize you can make a lot of that stuff in bulk and pair it up with different things. So like I get it. If you don't need to shop at Whole Foods either. It's super expensive, you know, like, so I think it's also like breaking down, like shop with a budget. Somewhere like Trader Joe's is cheaper than Safeway a lot of times, like legitimately. And it's chopped up veggies that make it super convenient. Sprouts has a lot of deals too. Seasonal foods are cheaper. So when you go to a produce section and you see where there's a lot of stuff showcased, and when we eat those seasonal foods, our body's going to thrive a little bit more because they're thriving in that environment that we're in.
That's dope.
Yeah.
You don't even think about it like that when you walk into those stores.
Yeah. Now, to justify and rationalize if you want to, like when you do spend a little bit more money on quality, like when you eat something that's like grass-fed or organic or whatever, if it's necessary, like realize that's an investment that you're making. Like grass-fed beef means that the animals were eating, you know, grass that had nutrients in it, and so they were able to develop, you know, CLA and these like healthy fats and nutrients that your body actually needs, compared to if it's eating grain. It's not developing a lot of the proper nutrition and nutrients that your body needs, and so you kind of are what you eats. You know, so it's make a little go a long way. Do what you can. But it has to be a priority at the same time too, and it pays off in dividends.
Right.
So what's the buzzword that actually has significance, right? You've got grass-fed, non-GMO, organic,
grain-free.
Right. So what I feel like that's on everything now.
Yeah.
And it's become extremely watered down.
So we got to take, if we're eating the same things, it's worth doing a little bit of research in. So I mean, responsibly sourced is where I like to start, but then start saying like local. Like local is a win-win situation. You're going to support your local restaurants, your local farmers, and you can like literally look at the farm or figure out like how they actually like if they have standards or so on. Organic's tough because it's like these days like so many things can slip by organic, and then people think, you know, so many people show me their organic cookies and their organic this, and it's like, yeah, but it's still cookies, man, and it's like grass-fed, you got to make sure it's 100% grass-fed too, because like literally they can go in and throw a little bit of grass in at the very end and say like, okay, those are grass-fed. So like, and stores are doing this on a regular basis. So if it doesn't say 100% grass-fed, that's one thing. But not everything has to be like, do what you can, but it's not like a deal breaker if you can't always eat that way. But like, or look at the Dirty Dozen. It's always posted online. And like, you know, for instance, apples or like blueberries or strawberries are things that are exposed to a lot of you know, pesticides. Those are going to be Dirty Dozen, meaning you need those organic, otherwise they're going to absorb in the skin a lot of that crap, and those byproducts of those pesticides can mess with your brain, and it can mess with your hormones and some of that.
That's really interesting.
Craziness. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah. But you got to educate yourself. I think what I tell people is like you got to get interested in it. Like why wouldn't you? Most people take more pride in fixing up their cars and you know, their stereo entertainment equipment than they do in like the food and how it makes them feel. But like I tell, like journal how you're eating and how you feel for a little while and like just figure it out.
Yeah. That's so where does the rubber meet the road for you in terms of the one size fits all diet prescription? I hate the word diet. I say, but my go-to word is nutrition. But diet prescription, you've got paleo, you've got keto, you've got, you know, all these fads, you know, and what I found in my career in fitness is that people don't want to go through the process of experimentation over a prolonged period of time to really figure out of those things, to understand the fundamental principles of nutrition, period, but what of those options actually works for them.
You know, people get so dogmatic about diets. Right. And so if they join one of those parties, they like the rest of them are all evil. And it's like, no, I can't eat gluten. Gluten's going to like tear me apart and this and that. And it's like, so I think like number one, I always say like eat based on your demand. So it's like if you live a very active lifestyle, your body probably is going to be able to utilize carbohydrates a little bit different. If I found out that I was, you know, diagnosed with cancer or a disease, I probably would do something like ketogenic to be able to lessen the odds of my body, like creating the environment that something bad could feed on.
Right. Sure.
Paleolithic is great in the sense that so many people get crazy about it, but in the sense that you're at least eliminating a lot of processed foods. But hey, it's 2018. Some processed foods like are not that bad if they have the right types of things in it. So without confusing people, the best diet is the one that you can stick to, obviously. So adherence is the most important thing. Right. But like play around with something. Like I think use maybe paleo as an idea to get yourself eating more vegetables and pulling you away from things. But don't be afraid of gluten or like oatmeal or rice if you're active and you do just fine with it. Like if you like that food, it's palatable, like use those things. But I think the things we can all agree on, like if we were sitting in a room with a bunch of doctors and dietitians, they'd say that like obviously I think we should eat less processed foods and sugars, like avoiding, you know, liquid calories and sugars in that sense. Like that's the big aha moment. We probably need to eat more nutrient dense vegetables. Local vegetables are a good thing. And then from there, it's like, you know, eat a protein probably appropriate to whatever your lifestyle is. You don't have to obsess over it. But like building meals around that does tend to help keep people more satiated, and so on. So I mean, I hope that helps. But like people can have great success on paleo. I was vegan and plant-based for a little while. I did okay with that. The keto thing works for a lot of people, but you know, a huge study just came out and took like it was like a year-long study and took people eating moderate to higher carb and high fat, same amount of calories, same amount of protein. And like the differences were so minimal as far as like disease and so on. So like in like your actual like how your body responded to it from a health perspective, because it's like, but if carbs make you crave more carbs or you're sensitive from a blood sugar perspective or so on, you have to take that into account. Some people do great on fat and so on. So it's like, what are you going to want to continue to eat so it doesn't feel like a diet?
Sure.
Yeah. That's dope.
Plain and simple.
That's super interesting. Coming from I'm interested. Coming from, you know, you did vegan, plant-based, and now you consume protein or like meats. how's that transition? Do you feel, how's your body feel? I don't even know how to question it, but how does your body feel based on vegan and eating meats? What's up, Brad?
You know, so
do you have a strong opinion on
yeah,
that?
I do actually. So it's funny, like, for one, the plant-based audience, and not speaking for everyone, can be some of the most, like, not I want to say hypocritical, but judgmental, like, dogmatic people they are. And unless that's your values, but it's funny because I went really into that world and, like, felt great. But then it's like when I started adding in other animal products, because, like, I don't know, and trust me, I defended it so on, but I had an injury when I, like, tore my pec. And it wasn't rehabbing properly. And I went over and over to where I was getting my rehab. It was a mentor of mine was like, you know, the minerals and amino acids that are in plants are not the same as what are in animal foods. I argued and argued. I was like, no way. I read the China study and I did this and that. And he's like, you're not going to recover optimally unless you add these things in. So then I was like, all right, well, next best thing, I'll get responsibly sourced, like grass-fed, you know, add in some beef and some, you know, better quality eggs, this and that. And sure enough, I started to heal better. My hormones felt a lot better and so on. So I agree that people are over-consuming a lot of animal products, but I think it's just be picky and eat based on your lifestyle. Like, if you're not super active and that kind of hunter mentality, like, you probably don't need to build every meal around an animal type of product. But you have to go with what feels. Like, if your values tell you one thing and you don't want to eat it because of, like, animal care and so on, like, that's up to you. But I personally feel better. And I still do maybe meatless Monday in most weeks where I just give a day. It's kind of like a cleanse that forces me to be more resourceful. On that day, I kind of give myself a break from protein and eat more plant-based foods, and I feel good. And that is, like, a good break. But, and I can go days without eating a lot of animal types of products, but I feel better. My sleep, my hormones, my energy is better when I had some animal products. And I've seen a lot of people go both sides. I know I could name 20 different people that were, like, so pro plant-based vegan, and then now they implement a little bit of animal sources because of, like, their gut microbiome or their hormones, their joints, their tendons. It can be done both ways, so it's kind of, it's preference. But you can get in arguments and people say, like, you don't need animal products.
Yeah.
You don't, but I don't know if the average person is going to thrive at optimal level without all the care that goes into that.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing that blows my mind about all of it, for every study that is pro vegan plant-based, there's another one that refutes it and statistically proves it ineffective.
Right.
But that same phenomenon occurs with everything. You can find a study that is for or against whatever soapbox you want to stand on. So it really just depends on your ability to go through that prolonged experimentation process to really understand how your body is going to react.
And I have to add to this because this is powerful. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but, like, that is so big too. If you're not confident and committed, it's like being in a relationship. If you're not committed, you're constantly thinking about these other things. Your mind's all over the place.
Right.
You need to trust the process to eliminate the stressors. One of the biggest stressors with eating disorders is people overanalyzing and thinking, like, oh, I ate that, now I need to go work out, or that was bad, this is going to have that effect. That is causing stressors, like especially your sympathetic nervous system, which, you know, is related to like cortisol or so on, where you can't digest and rest the parasympathetic nervous system as much. So for instance, if I have shame when I eat something, like, oh, I shouldn't have ate that, that's going to have a negative effect on how I digest that. So I talk a lot about mindful nutrition.
Yeah.
That's my favorite way of eating. Like, be mindful, like be conscious of where your food came from and the effect that it has on you. But you need to try it out and try it out for a period of time to see how it feels. Right now, I feel the best I've ever felt eating. I have a good groove of what I'm eating, and I wouldn't put myself in the category. I'm not eating 100% paleo. I'm not eating keto. I've tried those things, and like I have a balance of what works for Jason. With my lifestyle right now, in 2 months, it might be a little bit different based on what I'm doing.
Sure.
Yeah, I love that. And the whole thing, like Durs and Jason, you both said, it's experimentation, trying it for a prolonged period and seeing if it works for you, and not just going on the fad diet. Because, like, you see, the reason why I brought up the vegan is because you see a lot of big names like the Waka Flockas and people who don't necessarily study the nutrition, and they're just going out there spouting vegan is life or this diet's life, and people start getting a bad concept of like what they need to have in their nutrition plan because they're following what Waka Flocka says. Like, what the hell's he know? You know about nutrition? I don't know if he knows, but
and you can look into the science. And some people will argue and say, well, you know, our bodies and digestive systems and teeth were designed to break down and digest meat and so on. And then you'll get some people who will argument, well, why are these giant dinosaurs and gorillas do just fine on plant-based foods? And it's like, again, you can cherry pick both sides, but like,
I'm sorry, man. All those arguments are just so dumb to me.
Yeah. And that's another thing with life, like support like what works for people instead of being dogmatic and like pulling people down. Like, and that's what I try to do with my information, whether it's on social media or whatever. It's like share things that have value that can uplift people rather than like, I see people and sometimes it's like doctors that like are saying, oh, fat is bad. It's like, what do you mean fat is bad? Like fat is essential for our brains, our hormones and this and that. But it's like you have to like be open-minded and like work into some of the positivity of having fun with this whole process.
And I think that, social media is so horrible because it just gives people the opportunity to make blanket statements with no context.
Right.
Like you said, fat is bad. Yeah, a whole lot of fat is bad. However, if you want your body to process testosterone correctly, you need a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, you can't say that and just leave it on the table.
Right.
You know?
So I got to add to this. I think
especially if you're considered a quote unquote influencer.
Yeah. And so one of the best diets that we have, so it's about social media. One great thing about it is that it gives us a lot of tools and access. I wouldn't have been able to read so many audiobooks and listen to so many interviews and so on without it. But we have to take into consideration our visual diet. One of my mentors, I met him, and he brought this up. And everything starts in your head, too, like the amount of stress that you put behind it. So, for instance, if I'm watching or listening to negative stuff that's tearing everybody down, like that plays into my mindset of what I expect to see around. And if I'm looking at positive stuff that's creative, like I'm watching National Geographic and exploring things, like that is a whole like optimistic new discovery type of side. So it's like, are you looking at variety of sources, where they're coming from and why it makes sense to you? And when you see somebody say like, this is what I'm eating, is their lifestyle like yours? Does that make sense? Can you borrow some different things? So your visual diet, like look at what some other people are doing and like compare little bits and pieces, because I can tell you one thing. I've worked with well over 1,000 people, and a lot of these people that look good come to me because they have digestive issues, and every time they eat food they get bloated, and you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So it's like they might look good, but like what's going on behind the scenes, and you got to make sure that what's going on behind your scenes is like peaceful and in a happy place.
Sure.
That's huge.
Yeah, people just staying with nutrition, you can take a proactive approach or you can take a reactive approach.
Yep.
And what I notice with a lot of people who have an emotional attachment to food, it's 9 times out of 10, I would say, reactionary. It's their go-to because they haven't equipped themselves with the ability to articulate or created the right relationships where they're able to, they have a support system to work through these issues. So where can I go on my own and forget about my problems? Sit down at the table and just stuff your face. Right. Versus, using food as a tool for, mental and physical clarity. And then when that adversity is in your face, a lot of the people that live that same kind of lifestyle are able, when your circle changes, you change. And a lot of that can be found, just in the lifestyle that you lead. You create your tribe, right? And if it means enough to you, the right people will get on your bus and the wrong people will get off. But I think that starts with a commitment to self first, and you see it all the time in the CrossFit community when people join our tribe at PHX. There's that uncomfortable 90-day window where their social circle is changing, where it's like, holy shit, these people are like dedicated, they're here every day, blah, 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 blah. And this lifestyle's still brand new to me. And I'm still hanging out with more people who aren't in this lifestyle than actually participate in it. And then over the course of that 90 days, you start to see them more and more. And then all of a sudden their Facebook posts have more of our members than their old friends. And that same phenomenon, if you take your nutrition that seriously, will happen as well.
Yep. You got to. I mean, I'm biased, but food is something that amplifies of every other area of your life. I mean, I think about that with music too, but like whether it's bringing people together at that social or family type of setting, or it allows you to get more out of whatever you're doing. And it's cool that at the same time, it can be fun. You know?
Yeah.
And not just fun, they can have pleasure, you know?
Yeah, that's what I love, man. Like with your approach and everything that you're doing, you practice what you preach. You're not just like sitting here trying to sell copies. From the moment we've met and I've known you, you've done all of the research. You've done, the recipes, and you've made it a lifestyle. You're not just saying, here's some recipes, chop it up, make a book.
Right.
Yep.
You actually live the life. And so, my hat's off to you, dude, and I'm excited to see you to continue to do amazing things, brother.
I appreciate you.
I'm excited to ask you these questions because we've never had the opportunity to. Before we let you go, what's one thing you do each and every day to feed yourself mentally, physically, or spiritually? Answer it on any level. And the follow-on to that is, what's something you do each and every day to fuel yourself and create that sustainable momentum?
Ooh, I should have known this coming. To feed myself, I would say, I think that sense of like quiet time of gratitude, the mindset. I think the number one ingredient that I put into everything is how I internalize things in gratitude and your thought process as far as like how you choose to perceive things. For instance, like by simply shifting your mindset into like an attitude of gratitude, it's hard to be upset or angry or so on. And I think that it's very cliche, but I think taking quiet time in the morning to feed myself with gratitude is one of the best things. Like, and I think simplifying it's helped me just take more pride in the things that I have to feel me like I'm thankful that I had the ability to have the time to write this book and try these things out. I look up in my cupboard and have these ingredients that I was able to experiment with and have fun, where I know people that don't have that ability to do that. And it's like, during this period of time, I wasn't making as much money as I was doing like a corporate job and being able to travel around or so on. But it's like, I'm grateful that I had these different types of opportunities to meet these people and so on, and everything that's come along with it. To fuel me, this is big. I like going through energy ups and downs. There's times where I felt down and out, like the closest thing that I could possibly imagine to depression, just like feeling like I hadn't made progress in times for a while. So I was really obsessed with always looking at things that would fuel me. And with me, it's like finding a sense that you can plug into. I fuel myself with motivation and inspiration from around. So I tell people, like, you're going to be down and out on a lot of days, but like whether it's podcasts or audiobooks, or I have go-to notes from something that I wrote, or like notepads, like things that I can reread help fuel and feed me when I'm down and out. And I always ask myself, like, if they did it, I can do it. I can put myself through these different types of things. And so I love, like, I fuel myself, and it gives me a little bit of a dopamine rush, and I try to make sure it's not like it can easily turn into procrastination if I'm just searching for it all the time. But having some go-to sources, whether it's some YouTube channels or a podcast like Feed Me, Fuel Me, that you can just plug into and catch up and re-listen to these different things to motivate you and fuel you. And for me, that can spark me. So I think my visual, that what I put in my ears listening to, and it goes through with music too, like you realize energy and enthusiasm is required to do anything that's like meaningful if you're going to get people to buy into it. And like we're responsible, I think, for plugging into that. And so having those motivational sources, so like create a little notepad thing and just have some go-to sources.
There you go.
I love that, man. And before you leave, man, where can everybody follow you, support you, buy the book? Any place where they can get in contact with Jason Sani?
Everything's through my name, so at Jason Sani. Last name's Sani, so it's one word. That has a link in my Instagram area to buy the book. I have a YouTube channel where I do a lot of like little 1-minute point of view recipes to show you how easy it is. On Amazon, the book is available, but everything through the basic social things, and there I am.
That's awesome. Making Healthy Taste Good is the name of the book?
Yep.
Making Healthy Taste Good by Jason Sani. Appreciate you, big dog.
Thank you guys for having me.
Are you going to autograph this copy?
Yeah, I'm going to sign that copy. Take a picture and customize it. That's been a fun process.
That's awesome, man. No, proud of all your progress and everything that you've accomplished and you're about to accomplish. I feel like you're at the the crux of that exponential growth, man. So our hats off to you and everything you accomplished since getting us started with Feed Me Fuel Me. So
same to you guys, man.
We're happy that you're in such a good place.
Yeah,
man.
real talk.
That's awesome.
Appreciate you guys.
You guys, everybody out there in Feed Me Fuel Me land, make sure you get out there and invest in yourself by investing in Jason's book, Making Healthy Taste Good. And until next week, guys, Feed Me Fuel Me.
And that'll do it for this episode with our special guest, Jason Sani. If you want to see everything that Jason has going on and to purchase his book, Making Healthy Taste Good, please go to the full show notes on feedmefuelme.com. Also, be sure to connect with us on social media, including Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at feedmefuelme. We would love to hear from each and every one of you. If you found this episode inspiring in any way, please leave a rating and a comment in iTunes. We would love to hear your feedback so we can continue on this journey together. Be sure to share it with your friends and family on social media, including Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, or any other social platforms that you use. We really appreciate you spending your time with us today and allowing us to join you on your journey. We would love to hear your feedback on this episode, as well as guests and topics for future episodes. To end this episode, we would love to leave you with a quote by T. Colin Campbell. Good nutrition creates health in all areas of our existence. All parts are interconnected. Thank you again for joining us, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Way to make it to the end of the show. As always, go to Shrug Collect over at iTunes. Give us a 5-star review, positive comment, and hit thrivemarket.com/feedme to get that great deal on awesome groceries. See you next time.